Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be discussing a few theories in Arc 4 of ReZero. More specifically, there is a loop where Envy shows up in Sanctuary. And the question is whether she is actually there herself or whether she has possessed Emilia. So this is going to be a mix of points that I think are good and stuff that I have seen from the internet that are good for either side. Hopefully, I have found most of the good points. But if I miss anything, just leave a comment to let me know. So let's do a bit of setup here before we actually get into the different sides. This is the loop where Subaru gets into the Tea Party, and while he's there talking to Echidna, he brings up Return by Death a few times. As a matter of fact, that's kind of a big point for them being, well, for that whole Tea Party, is that he is able to tell someone about it. Now, the general consensus that I have seen is that he still has a punishment. So Satella tries to punish him while he is at the Tea Party, but it doesn't really do anything because he's at the Tea Party. And then we see that he kind of has like heart problems or like he has pain while he is in the Tea Party. And I think that's because of Satella trying to punish him for talking about Return by Death. Because that's the only time that we see this happening. And the other times that he is either in the Tea Party or taking the trials, the world just kind of fades and there's no issue for him. This is the only time where he actually feels pain before the world ends. So I think this is Satella trying to punish him for breaking the taboo. It just doesn't really do anything because he's not there mentally. And when that doesn't work, she goes and starts absorbing all of Sanctuary. So the two theories that are kind of connected to this are whether Envy showed up herself and then started going on the attack, or whether she possessed Emilia in order to use her body to start attacking. And a little bit of a caveat to these theories. We know that the seal is still in place. So if she showed up here herself, there is some debate or some more theories on what it would actually mean for her to show up herself. That's not what this video is going to be about. I'm not going into that headache at the moment. But she manifests in some way. That is basically the theory on that side. I will admit that's a little bit of a point into the possessed theory side, but given that the witch is so OP that the seal isn't really able to hold her completely as it is, I wouldn't be too surprised if she is able to manifest herself somewhere away from the seal. So I'll say for now it's a little bit of a point in that side, but not a huge point. Spoiler alert, this is going to be how every one of these points work. I can see how a lot of them are slightly towards one side or the other, but a lot of them are just going to be iffy at best. These are not going to be any particular order. I'm going to save the one that I think is the best for last, but the rest of these I'm just kind of going to throw out here. So I'm going to put these first three together, actually, because I think the counterpoint to all of them is the same thing. So in the last arc, in Arc 3, Sloth is there in order to test Emilia. He thinks that she could be a vessel for the witch, which is a point towards the possessed theory. He thinks that the witch can possess somebody, and that is his entire purpose of being there. I think most of this is from his gospel, which we do learn at some point what it says, at least in the novels. I think it may just be the web novel. I don't remember if the light novel says it, but for sure in the web novel, we know what exactly it says, and it's not super clear on. It doesn't say anything about possessing Emilia or possessing anybody. So this could just be his own interpretation, but that is why he is there. The second point is that Subaru thinks that she was possessed. And this is only in the novels. I don't think it's said anywhere in the anime. But in the novels, he for sure, whenever he returns by death and he comes back in the next loop, he thinks that she was possessed. And point number three is that Garfield hints at her being possessed. He doesn't say anything about where Emilia is whenever Subaru asks. And before he goes and tries to attack the witch, he says sorry to Subaru, as if it hints that he thinks that it's Emilia who is possessed by the witch, and he's about to try to go kill her. And this is kind of my point with all three of these points, is that every single one of these could very easily just be that person's interpretation of what's happening. Beetlejuice could just be reading the book, reading his gospel, because there's nothing said that the witch is possessing. We don't know where he's getting this idea from. It could just be his own idea that just came out of nowhere. For Subaru, he is also just making a guess. He doesn't know either. He's going by, up until this point, he has never seen Satella, so he doesn't know what she looks like. He just saw that, oh, there is this person who looks like Emilia. So he thinks that it's just her being possessed. And that's kind of goes along with fuck. It kind of goes along with Garfield too. Garfield could have very easily just seen someone who looked like Emilia and assumed that it was Emilia. We know that they look very similar. So for me, I think this is kind of points towards the possessed theory, but because they don't really know what Satella looks like, every single well, for Garfield and Subaru, it could very easily just be their own interpretation of seeing someone that looked like Emilia and assuming that it was just her who was possessed. And to be clear, because this is going to keep coming up like this, I am not saying that this is, or I'm not saying that those points are wrong. I'm saying that I can see both sides. Another point for the possessed side is that if Envy manifested herself, then there needs to be some explanation for where Emilia is, because she's not in the graveyard whenever Subaru wakes up. I've seen ideas that maybe she woke up first and then she left, which doesn't make any sense to me. I think if she was in a state to where she was freaking out, she just wouldn't leave. And if she was in her right mind enough to be able to leave, she would have took Subaru with her. So to me, that's not really a great point. It could be that Envy manifested somewhere close to Subaru, which if she didn't manifest, that would be my guess on what happened. And then she basically absorbed just Emilia and then went outside and did a mass attack on Sanctuary. I don't think we've seen her do something like this. Anytime that we have seen her like start absorbing anything, it's always been in a wide area. So I think it's a little bit of a stretch. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think it's super likely on that. So to me, I think this is a little bit better of a point than the other ones that have been mentioned so far. So for the next point, I'm not really going to put this into either side. I'm just going to point it out because I think it's interesting. So in the web novel, whenever we see the trials, there's a little bit extra info whenever Subaru dies after killing himself. The loop that he found Rem, who is now in a coma. Subaru kills himself, and they try to save him. Well, it was Felix and Wilhelm try to save him, but they don't. And only in the web novel, he actually gets possessed by the Witch of Envy. Kind of. Maybe he gets possessed. It could just be that she's like puppeting him from the inside. I don't know the details on that. We don't really get a whole lot. But there is a little bit there that could be a point towards the possessed side. But I also think that because this is Subaru, it might be a little bit different. And to be clear, and this is something that I should have mentioned earlier, if Envy can possess someone, I don't think it's necessary that she has to possess Emilia. There could be restrictions on what she is able to do, but we don't really know what that is. It could be that she can only possess half elves or maybe someone similar to her. We just don't know. And I'm going to add a little bit more to this later on in the my theory I'm saving for last. Where was I? Oh yeah. The so Envy possessed Subaru, but it's also his corpse, which I know I feel like also adds a little bit more wiggle room on whether that is actual possession or not. But it could also be that these are completely different scenarios, so that she is able to possess and she is able to manifest herself. So I don't want to narrow this down so much that just because she can possess someone in one situation, that she always has to possess someone, which is going to make this even harder to narrow down an answer to. So the next point I think could help either side, but I think it kind of helps the in-person theory just a little bit more. So anytime that we have seen Satella or Envy do something, it is in relation to Subaru talking about return by death, or breaking the taboo is generally what I've seen people refer to that as. And the idea that I've seen with this is that Subaru has some sort of contract with Satella. And that's kind of what my thinking is on this, is that Subaru has made a contract with Satella, and then part of that contract had his memories of it erased. But that is a completely different theory, and we're not getting into that right now. But if he does have some sort of contract with her, then it would kind of make sense that there is something within that contract that allows Envy to show up, basically to do more into the world, because he is breaking that contract. I don't know how. Again, this is kind of just a theory that's been thrown out there. I don't think we've gotten anything concrete on this. He could not have a contract with her at all. I think it makes more sense that he does, and that whenever he breaks a part of that contract, she is able to break through her seal enough to do something in the real world, whether that's possessing, whether that's manifesting herself. I think either one could work. And the reason that I say that this works a little bit more towards the in-person theory is because of the seal. The seal kind of does a lot to help the possessed theory, because it makes it a little harder for Envy to actually show up or manifest in some way. But if we relate this to a contract in some way, I think that gives a little bit more credence to her having the ability to manifest. The next point is that Satella shows up in the dream world. Now, this isn't a super strong point, in my opinion. I do think that it points to her being able to manifest herself outside of her seal. Granted, this isn't physically, so it's the reason why I don't think it's a super strong point. But I think this goes along with her being able to punish Subaru whenever he breaks the taboo, and being able to kill Emilia in the third arc whenever Subaru tries to talk about return by death and she just kills Emilia. I think that and this kind of go together, in that she is able to manifest and interact with the outside world even though she is sealed. So for me, this is kind of evidence of the possibility that she maybe can manifest herself, but it's not really strong evidence that she actually did in this instance. Well, in the instance that she showed up in Sanctuary. Okay, next point has to do with clothes. And there is like one guy on multiple Reddit posts who really likes this point, let me tell you. But when Envy is in Sanctuary, her clothes are different from what Emilia was wearing whenever she was in the graveyard. And they match the clothes that Satella is wearing whenever she goes to the dream world. So admittedly, I think this was a good point when I first saw it, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for Emilia to go and change or anything. But my counterpoint to it would be that we see Envy has a cloak of shadow. So she can make something like clothing. Now, whether she can make it in as much detail as what we see in the anime and in the novels, that part I don't know. So I'm a little bit on the fence about how strong of a point this is. On one hand, I want to say it's not that strong because Envy can just basically make something that looks like clothes out of her shadows. But I also think that may be a bit of a stretch on my part. It could be that she actually manifested it, and she manifested herself in different clothing than what Emilia was wearing. So I think this is actually an okay point for the in-person side. Not super like out of the park amazing, but I'll give it to it on this. Okay, final point here that I'm going to make, and this is my favorite and what I think is the case. In the web novel and the web novel only, Echidna herself says that Emilia was possessed. This is the next time that Subaru goes to the tea party. She explains that Envy possessed Emilia and that it didn't have to be Emilia. She just happened to be there, and she happened to be the person that Subaru has been eyeing. Basically, she possessed her because jealousy. Now, I will say, because this is web novel only, it very well could be the point that this is not the canon answer. So I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, it is 100% the case because Echidna said it, that that's what happened. I'm already on the fence about how much I trust Echidna on most things anyway. So it very well could be that she's making something up. I don't think so. I think she's telling the truth about this. I think it's more of a question of whether this was an early idea that was thrown out in later versions. Because it's not in the light novel, it's because it didn't get put in the anime either. I think there's a little bit of a question on how much it should be taken. And my personal feelings is that if it's not the case, it was originally the idea. So I would guess that the original idea was that she was possessed, and Tobey wanted to make it a little bit more of a mystery, so he kind of took that out. And I think that is the point that I'm going to end it on with this whole theories. There, nothing that I found anywhere. Everyone is kind of duking it out on what it could be, but at the end of the day, we just don't have enough info to know. It could be either side, and something that we learn later on could end up proving one side or the other. Like I said, my personal theory is that she was possessed, but I will fully admit I am like 55% sure on this. I'm not very sure at all. Me being wishy-washy on all of this is kind of a sign of that. But hopefully I have discussed some of the major points on this and not helped at all in coming to a resolution. But again, if I have missed something or if I have misunderstood someone else's idea, please let me know. And I guess I'll end this video by answering the question in the title. Was Emilia possessed, or did Envy show up herself? We don't know. See ya.